This is HFY Vanguard, where one human's touch can awaken power older than stars. And that story begins now. The diplomatic shuttle cut through the velvet darkness of space like a silver arrow, its engines humming in solemn harmony with the void. Ahead, the planet Alaris floated in the abyss, emerald seas glimmering beneath thin veils of cloud, continents glowing faintly under the twin suns. From orbit, it looked like paradise. Yet for Commander John Morton, paradise was rarely what it seemed. He adjusted the collar of his Federation uniform, the navy blue fabric tight across his shoulders. The ceremonial medals felt like dead weight compared to the armor he usually wore, the kind that smelled of oil, smoke, and war. His reflection in the viewport looked far too polished for his taste. Soldiers didn't belong in marble halls. But orders were orders. Approaching Valoria Prime, the pilot reported. Atmospheric entry in 30 seconds. Local conditions stable. Copy that, John replied, his voice calm but clipped. The professionalism barely masked the unease in his gut. He'd read the mission briefing twice. The official objective was simple: deliver condolences to the royal family after the death of King Orion and present a renewed defense treaty proposal. Unofficially, he suspected something else, a subtle test from the Federation Council, a probe into Alaris's loyalties. The shuttle trembled as it hit the upper atmosphere, flames licking the hull. Outside, a city of glass and crystal unfolded beneath them. Valoria, the jewel of Alaris. Gleaming towers rose from verdant gardens, their spires shaped like blades of light. Yet even from above, John could see the scars, faint scorch marks on the outskirts, defensive platforms half repaired. Signs of recent conflict, or preparation for one. Set her down at the royal landing pad, he ordered. Moments later, the shuttle descended through golden haze and settled onto a polished platform surrounded by hovering banners bearing the sigil of House Orion, a rising sun over crossed wings. The hatch hissed open, letting in the scent of Alarian air, crisp, faintly metallic, and tinged with ozone. John stepped down into the sunlight and froze. She was waiting for him. Princess Thalia of Alaris stood at the edge of the welcoming line, flanked by guards in black and silver armor. Her emerald skin shimmered softly under the twin suns, the glow shifting as she moved like living jade touched by fire. Silver white hair braided with luminous beads framed a face that seemed sculpted by light itself. But it was her eyes that caught him, twin pools of luminous blue, curious, assessing, far too alive. Commander Morton. She greeted, her voice melodic yet sharp-edged, each syllable carrying both grace and authority. Welcome to Alaris. I trust your journey was uneventful. John bowed formally, instinct overriding his thoughts. Your Highness, on behalf of the Federation Council, I extend our deepest condolences for your loss. Your father's leadership was held in the highest regard. For a fleeting moment, sorrow flickered across her expression. Then it vanished, replaced by the composed poise of a ruler in waiting. Thank you, Commander. Duty does not rest even in mourning. Her tone softened slightly. Come, we can speak more privately inside. As they walked across the crystalline courtyard, John's boots echoed against the smooth surface. He noticed the guards, all male, all standing unnaturally stiff. Their armor bore faint energy etchings, elegant yet functional. Discipline was in their blood, but so was tradition. Inside, the palace corridors of light stretched endlessly. Transparent walls shimmered with streams of liquid energy, forming patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the inhabitants' footsteps. Every breath John took echoed the strange hum of alien technology, living architecture, he realized. The place felt aware. I must admit, Thalia said as they entered a long marble corridor lined with ancient murals, the Federation rarely sends warriors to deliver condolences. We usually receive diplomats, scholars, politicians. Unusual times call for unusual choices, John replied evenly. Perhaps they thought I'd be harder to manipulate. That earned him a faint smile, or easier to trust. He shrugged, unwilling to give her the satisfaction of a grin. That depends on the situation. Indeed, she said, her eyes glinting with amusement. This way, Commander. They entered what looked like a throne room, though the throne itself was shrouded in dark cloth. The scent of incense lingered in the air, Soft light filtered through high arches, carved with alien glyphs. It was beautiful, but beneath the serenity, John felt tension, something unseen humming below the surface. Thalia stood before a large window overlooking the city. You see the light of our capital, Commander. Valoria stands as proof of our endurance. My father rebuilt it after the War of Ashes. We owe him everything. I read about that war, John said quietly. The Federation supplied weapons, but never troops. Her gaze shifted toward him, sharp challenging. And we learned to survive without them. The silence between them thickened, not hostile, but heavy with something unspoken pride, grief, perhaps even accusation. John respected that. He'd seen leaders broken by loss. Thalia wore hers like armor. She turned from the window, her tone softening. You're not what I expected, Commander Morton. The reports described you as a tactician, efficient, pragmatic, yet you seem curious. Curiosity keeps soldiers alive, he replied, and I'm beginning to think your planet holds more mysteries than my briefing suggested. A spark lit her eyes. Then perhaps you'd enjoy seeing something few outsiders have ever witnessed. Before he could ask, she was already walking toward a narrow door at the far end of the hall. My ancestors' relics, she said, glancing over her shoulder. Our legacy before we joined your federation. Unless, of course, you are not curious. Her voice carried playful mockery, but there was a glint beneath it, an unspoken test. John hesitated for half a heartbeat. He should have refused. His mission parameters were clear. Deliver the message and return to base. But there was something in her tone, half challenge, half invitation, that stirred something reckless inside him. Lead the way, Princess, he said finally. They moved through the concealed door and descended a spiral staircase lit by blue flame crystals embedded in the walls. The air grew cooler, older. Faint whispers echoed the hum of power buried deep beneath the palace. Thalia's tone shifted more somber now. This place was built before our world joined the Federation, before we were reduced to a strategic outpost, as your council calls us. My people once created wonders that defied the stars. John glanced at her. You sound like you resent the Federation. I respect what we gained from it, she said, but I remember what we lost. The staircase opened into a vast circular chamber. The walls glowed faintly, etched with symbols of flame and wings. Around the perimeter stood display cases containing artifacts, weapons, crystals, star maps older than human civilization itself. And at the center of it all stood the armor. It rested upon a stone pedestal, a full suit of dark metallic plates, intricate and elegant, dusted with the faint shimmer of centuries. Unlike the other relics, it seemed dormant, forgotten. Yet as John approached, a strange pull stirred in his chest, an echo of recognition he couldn't explain. Thalia's lips curved into a teasing smile. The glory of our past, she said, sweeping her arm with dramatic flair. The armor of our greatest warrior king. Legend says it chose its wearer. No one has awakened it for generations. John's hand hovered inches from the chest plate. It's beautiful craftsmanship. Try it on, she said suddenly. He blinked. Excuse me. Go on. Humor me. It's just a relic now. Nothing happens when we touch it. Her voice turned playful again, almost daring. Perhaps human hands might do what ours could not. John hesitated, glancing at her smirk. You realize if I break it, I'll probably cause a diplomatic crisis. Then let's hope your grip is steady, Commander. Something in her tone, equal parts challenge and charm, made him step closer. Against his better judgment, he reached out and brushed his fingers against the breastplate. The chamber shivered. For one impossible heartbeat, silence swallowed the air. Then the armor came alive. Blue light ignited along its seams, racing in geometric patterns like veins awakening after eternal sleep. Dust lifted from its surface. The pieces disassembled mid-air, hovering weightless, orbiting him in a slow spiral. John stumbled back, eyes wide, as fragments of the ancient suit began to converge toward him. Thalia, he shouted, but she stood frozen, her eyes wide with awe. The armor struck like lightning. Plates attached themselves seamlessly to his body, one after another, faster than thought, until he stood fully encased in glowing metal that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The last sound he heard before everything went white was Thalia's whisper, trembling with disbelief. Impossible, it chose you. For several long seconds, Commander John Morton couldn't breathe. Blue light filled the chamber, searing alive ancient, wrapping around him like liquid fire. His mind was a storm of alien whispers, symbols, and voices that weren't his own. Images flashed armies under twin sun starships shaped like wings, worlds burning beneath black shadows. And through it all, a single phrase repeated in a tongue he somehow understood: the Guardian awakens. When the light finally dimmed, he was standing in the center of the room, armored head to toe, in the relic of a forgotten age. The plates gleamed with living energy, runes pulsing faintly across his chest. The armor moved as he moved, weightless, obedient. He could feel its heartbeat echoing his own. "Commander!" Thalia's voice trembled. She stood several meters away, her emerald face, pale eyes wide with disbelief. That's impossible." John's voice came out deeper, distorted slightly by the helmet's modulation. "Define impossible." "No one not in centuries has been able to activate it," she whispered. "Even our most advanced scientists couldn't make it respond. It's supposed to be inert. Dead tech." "Well," he said, dryly glancing down at the glowing gauntlets that flexed with his fingers, "either your ancestors built one hell of a prank, or this thing likes me." She blinked as if unsure whether to laugh or panic. "It doesn't like, Commander, it chooses." Before he could respond, a surge of information flooded his mind. Star charts, combat formations, weapon schematics that defied Federation understanding. Names, numbers, commands in a forgotten dialect. He staggered, clutching his head as the armor's systems synchronized with his nervous network. John Thalia's voice pierced the haze. She ran to him, reaching out, and froze when her hand brushed the armor. Energy flared between them, brief but intimate, like static charged with meaning. She gasped and withdrew. "It recognized you too," he said slowly, straightening. "When you touched it." Her lips parted in shock. "That's not possible." Seems to be a theme today. The armor's HUD displayed alien glyphs, each resolving into translated overlays as if adapting to his mind. Core functions active, neural link stable, genetic match confirmed. He exhaled, still half dazed. "Okay, either I'm hallucinating or your relic just ran a DNA scan on me." Thalia looked as if the floor had vanished beneath her. Then, the legends were true. Legends. She hesitated as if weighing secrets buried too deep to trust a stranger. Then quietly the prophecy of the Guardian King. "It says that in the Age of Shadows, when Alaris stands on the brink, the armor will awaken, not for an heir of our blood, but for an outsider who carries the spark of creation." John's brow furrowed behind the visor. "You think that's me?" "I think," she swallowed, "I think the armor thinks so." Before he could reply, the ground shuddered violently. Dust rained from the vaulted ceiling. Alarms blared throughout the palace, deep sonorous tones that made the walls vibrate. Thalia's wristcom flared with blue light. "Your Highness," a voice shouted through the static, "unidentified vessels have entered orbit. They're not responding to hails. We're detecting energy signatures." "Void type." Her eyes widened in horror. "Voidborn." "Void what?" John asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and sprinted toward the staircase. "Move." He followed without hesitation. The armor responded instantly, amplifying his stride, the world sharpening into perfect clarity. His vision split into data overlays, atmospheric composition, gravitational balance, tactical readings. Every sense heightened beyond human limits. They emerged into the palace corridor, now a scene of chaos. Guards rushed past, shouting commands in Alarian tongue. Holographic maps flickered on walls, showing red clusters spreading rapidly across the capital. Explosions thundered somewhere above. Princess and officers saluted as she passed. "Our defense grid is collapsing. They've breached the outer ring." "How many ships?" she demanded. "Dozens, maybe more." She turned to John. "The Voidborn are not mere raiders. They're entities of shadow-living hunger drawn to worlds rich in life energy. They consume everything they touch. We thought they were extinct. Extinct things, they have a nasty habit of coming back," John said grimly. "Where's your command center?" "Follow me." They entered a wide elevator tube that shot them upward through layers of the palace. Through transparent walls, John glimpsed Valoria, burning streets ablaze, civilians running streaks of light as defense drones clashed with amorphous shadows that devoured light itself. "This is bad," he muttered. "It's worse than you think," Thalia replied. If the Voidborn breach the palace, they'll reach the Chamber of Relics and the heart of Alaris. That another shiny artifact. It's the core of our world's life energy, she said. The armor was created to protect it, but no one remembers how. Guess I'm about to find out. The elevator doors slid open to reveal the command hall, a cathedral of glass and light now dimmed by emergency power. Officers scrambled between stations shouting updates. In the center, a massive holographic display projected the city's defensive grid, glowing blue lines being eaten away by crimson shadows. Status report, Thalia barked. An older man, General Torin, turned relief washing over his lined face. Your Highness, thank the ancestors. We've been trying to reach you. The palace shields are holding, but the outer sectors are lost. We need to evacuate. His words died as he saw John, the glowing armor still humming with energy. By the stars. The relic. It's active. Thalia nodded sharply. Commander Morton awakened it. That's impossible, Toron said. John sighed. I'm starting to hate that word. Thalia faced the general. According to the prophecy, the armor's activation means our hour has come, and our champion has arrived. John shot her a look. Champion might be overstating things. Then prove me wrong, she said softly, almost daring him again. Outside the command windows, the sky darkened as a massive shadow eclipsed the suns, the Voidborn mothership descending through the atmosphere, tendrils of black energy writhing from its hull. Your Federation promised protection, Toron spat. Where are your fleets now, human? John clenched his fists. If they knew this was coming, they didn't tell me. Thalia turned to him sharply. You suspect they did. Federation intelligence keeps plenty of secrets. If these things threaten their borders, they might have decided your planet was expendable. Her eyes hardened. Then we stand alone. Not entirely, John said, stepping to the viewport. You've got me and whatever this suit can do. She studied him the way he stood tall against the sight of destruction, calm despite the odds. Something in her expression shifted in calculation, giving way to something more human. You would fight for a world that isn't yours. I've fought for worse reasons, he said. At least this one's beautiful. For the briefest moment, their eyes met. The hum of the armor deepened as if reacting to the tension between them. General Thalia said, tearing her gaze away. Prepare all remaining ground forces. We defend the palace to the last. Yes, Your Highness. She turned back to John. Can you control the armor? I think it's controlling me, he admitted, flexing his hands. But I'm learning fast. Good, she said, because the Voidborn feed on fear and despair. The armor was made to channel courage, willpower. Emotion is its power source. He raised a brow. You're telling me this thing runs on feelings? Her lips twitched. Perhaps that's why humans are compatible. The room shook violently as another explosion tore through the outer walls. Sirens wailed. The general shouted, They've breached the west gate. Thalia drew a slender weapon from her hip, a crystalline blade that hummed with blue fire. Commander Morton, it appears your initiation will be immediate. John smiled beneath his helmet. Just how I like it. They sprinted through the collapsing corridor as soldiers rallied around them. The sounds of battle grew louder, plasma fire screams, the unearthly screech of the Voidborn. At the courtyard gates, they found the front line. Black shadows surged against flickering energy barriers, shapes that shifted between liquid and smoke. Where they touched, matter corroded into nothingness. Your Highness, a soldier shouted, the eastern barrier is failing. Thalia looked at John. Now would be an excellent time to test your emotional power source. He stepped forward, instinct guiding him. The armor responded like a living extension of his mind. He raised his arm and light burst outward in a sweeping wave, reinforcing the failing barrier. The shadows recoiled, hissing like wounded beasts. The soldiers gasped. Thalia smiled faintly, impressive. Don't sound so surprised, he said. Maybe it likes me after all. You should pace yourself, she warned. The armor draws from your life force. Too much and it will consume you. He looked back at her, voice low. Then I'll just have to make it count. Another surge of energy pulsed through the barrier. The Voidborn shrieked, retreating momentarily. John's body trembled with exhaustion, yet exhilaration too. The armor was alive, breathing with him, answering his will. Thalia stepped beside him, her blade gleaming. You fight like my ancestors once did. He glanced at her, smirking beneath the visor. Then maybe your ancestors were human. She laughed, a bright, disbelieving sound amidst the chaos. And for that single heartbeat, surrounded by destruction, shadows, and blue fire, the soldier and the princess shared something far greater than fear. Something that felt like destiny finally remembering their names. The night over Valoria burned like a dying star. From the palace balcony, John could see the horizon glowing crimson, where the city's defense grids had failed. Entire districts were swallowed by darkness as the Voidborn advanced, not an army, but a tide. Every scream echoed like wind across the broken towers. Commander Morton, a young lieutenant, shouted from below. Sector 7 has fallen. The Void are converging on the central district. John's HUD flickered, data flooding his vision. Heat signatures, troop positions, energy readings, and something darker, a cold void spreading across the map like an infection. The armor recognized it. Enemy essence parasitic, origin extra-dimensional. He clenched his jaw. Tell the civilians to head for the palace tunnels. Seal everything else. Yes, sir. Thalia appeared beside him, her ceremonial armor now replaced by combat gear. Black woven fibers lined with glowing veins of silver. A long rifle rested across her back, its design elegant yet deadly. Even amid chaos, she moved with grace, every motion deliberate, her eyes alight with fierce purpose. The Federation still hasn't responded, she demanded. John shook his head. No reinforcements, no transmission acknowledgements. Either they're jammed or they're ignoring us. She stared out at the fires consuming her city, ignoring us. Of course they are. Why risk ships for a single outpost world? John said nothing. He'd seen it before, cold logic in polished boardrooms, deciding who lived and who didn't. He'd obeyed such logic once. But standing beside Thalia, now watching her world burn, it felt obscene. Your people don't deserve this, he said quietly, and I won't let them fall. Thalia turned toward him, her expression caught between gratitude and disbelief. You'd defy your own orders for us. He gave a humorless smile. Orders end where conscience begins. Before she could answer, the air shuddered, a deep, guttural vibration that made the ground quake. Both looked skyward as the clouds split open. From the rift descended a mass of writhing black tendrils, a creature, half shadow, half energy, moving like liquid night. Their general, Thalia whispered, a Void Lord. John's armor responded instantly, displaying readings too chaotic to comprehend. Power levels catastrophic. Threat class unknown. Evacuate your command staff, he said. Now. Thalia's jaw tightened. My place is here. You're the heir to your world, he snapped. If you die, if I run, my people will stop fighting, she cut him off. I stay. For a moment, neither spoke, only the rumble of distant explosions filled the air. Then John nodded once, resigned. Then we fight together. She smiled faintly. At last, something we agree on. They sprinted through the corridor toward the outer gates. The armor moved with preternatural speed, its systems anticipating his intentions before he even acted. As they reached the lower courtyard, the first wave of Voidborn broke through the perimeter. The creatures were nightmares made flesh, silhouettes of smoke, and claws, their bodies devouring light. They shrieked as they advanced, distorting reality around them. John raised his hand. The armor obeyed. A sphere of blue-white energy erupted outward, disintegrating the first line of enemies in a burst of radiance. He felt the drain immediately, like someone tearing heat from his bones, but he pushed through it, focusing, channeling his will. Impressive, Thalia murmured, firing precise bursts of plasma into the advancing tide. Try not to die before I finish admiring it. Not planning to, he grunted. But if I do make it look heroic. She laughed one short while before cutting down another Voidborn that lunged for her. You humans always joke in the face of death. Is that courage or insanity? Little of both. The battle raged for minutes that felt like hours. The palace trembled as explosions rocked its foundations. The sky was alive with fire, the eerie blue glow of the armor clashing against the void's abyssal black. When the last of the attackers fell, John dropped to one knee, gasping. The armor's internal warnings flashed crimson, vital drain critical, neural strain approaching limit. Thalia ran to him, placing a hand on his armored shoulder. Stop, you'll burn yourself out. He looked up, visor flickering. They'll keep coming. Then we'll find another way to fight. She helped him to his feet. The contact sent a faint pulse of light through the armor, a resonance between her energy and his. He noticed, but she didn't, or perhaps she pretended not to. They retreated into the Hall of Relics, now flickering under emergency lights. The chamber that once glowed with reverence now trembled with the weight of battle above. Dust fell from the ceiling. The great armor pedestal stood empty, the space he had filled now radiating faint echoes of power. Thalia walked ahead, her voice quieter. My father spoke of the Voidborn once when I was a child. He said they were myth stories meant to remind us what happens when creation loses balance. Doesn't feel like a myth right now, John muttered. He also said the Federation came to us not out of kindness, but fear. They knew the void might return one day. She turned to face him. They needed our world's energy, the heart of Alaris, to shield their colonies. They used diplomacy to cage it. He studied her expression, the bitterness there. You think your father died because of that? I know he did. Her voice hardened. His ship exploded during a peace summit. The Federation called it an accident. But he was searching for something records about the heart's true nature. And what did he find? Before she could answer, the armor's internal voice spoke not in words but impressions. Images. A great crystal pulsing beneath the planet's crust. Circles of ancient warriors surrounding it. The armor itself forged in its image. John saw it all in flashes like a memory not his own. He staggered, gripping the wall. I'm seeing something, he gasped. A power source. Deep underground. The armor's connected to it. Thalia's eyes widened. The heart. He nodded. And something else, a connection between your people and mine. What do you mean? I saw Earth. His voice was distant now. Your ancestors visited it. Thousands of years ago. They left something behind in our DNA. Thalia froze. That's impossible. John met her gaze through the glowing visor. Your ancestors made sure that if your world ever forgot its own strength, someone else would remember for you. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Only the hum of the armor broke it. Then it's true, she said softly. The prophecy wasn't just about our savior, it was about your kind, the lost bloodline. Before he could answer, another explosion tore through the hall, hurling both of them to the ground. A massive slab of debris crashed down, blocking the entrance. Dust filled the air. John pushed himself up, coughing. We're sealed in. Thalia activated her wristcom. General Toran, report. Only static answered. She cursed under her breath, then looked at him. There's another way out through the old temple passages. They lead to the Nexus chamber. The Nexus, he asked, still recovering. It's where our ancestors performed energy rituals to recharge the heart. Maybe, she looked at his armor, glowing faintly even in exhaustion. Maybe we can use it to stabilize you before the suit kills you. He flexed his hands. They trembled slightly. And if it doesn't, then you die a legend, she said, a thin smile ghosting her lips. But let's aim for a better ending. They navigated the collapsed corridor, the faint glow from his armor guiding them. The deeper they went, the more alien the architecture became, no longer elegant, but primal. Symbols pulsed on the walls, resonating with his armor's light as if welcoming it home. Your people built this, he asked. My ancestors did, she corrected. Before the Federation, before empires. When our kind still believed in creation over conquest. Then maybe it's time to believe again. As they descended into the temple, the air grew warmer, charged. The hum of energy filled the space like a heartbeat. At the center stood an altar carved from translucent stone veins of light running through it. Around the edges, circular markings glowed faintly, a pattern that mirrored the runes on his armor. Thalia approached it reverently. This is where they bound their warriors to the energy of Alaris, the ritual of union. Sounds religious, John said warily. It was scientific, once she replied. But over millennia, we turned it into legend. Maybe the armor will remember what we forgot. The armor's pulse quickened, recognizing the space. John stepped forward. If this can recharge me, we might have a chance. Thalia glanced up at him. It requires two. He frowned. Two. Her gaze held his steady, unflinching. The ritual of energy is a bond. One channels the life force, the other receives it. The armor can't sustain balance alone. You're volunteering. She gave a small, defiant smile. Would you trust anyone else to handle your energy, Commander? He chuckled despite the chaos. When you put it like that, she moved closer, her eyes bright under the temple's glow. Then it's decided. Whatever happens next, we face it together. The armor's systems began to hum, resonating with the ancient runes beneath their feet. Symbols flared on the walls, light filling the chamber. John looked down at her, realizing the truth. They had crossed the threshold from alliance to something more. The soldier and the princess, the last human and the last hope of her kind. And somewhere deep within the armor's memory, past logic, past reason, a voice whispered again, "Two hearts will awaken, one light." The temple pulsed with ancient power. Blue veins of light throbbed along the walls, running like rivers beneath glass. The air was heavy-charged electric, as though the chamber itself waited to exhale after millennia of silence. John could feel the armor responding to it. Every breath he took echoed in the metallic hum around him. Every beat of his heart made the runes on his gauntlets shimmer. He wasn't just wearing the suit anymore, he was becoming part of it. Thalia stood before him at the center of the altar, the ethereal glow reflecting in her luminous blue eyes. Her expression was calm, but her voice trembled ever so slightly. "The ritual will connect us mind, energy, emotion. There's no way to predict how it reacts to someone who isn't a Larian." "Good thing I'm not big on predictions," John said, trying to steady his breathing. "Just tell me what to do." She gestured toward the glowing circle etched into the floor. "Stand here. The armor will recognize the nexus. When it does, it will open itself to the ritual. I'll guide the flow." John stepped into position. The floor vibrated, runes igniting beneath his boots and cascading light. His HUD flickered with alerts, energy synchronization in progress. Unknown source link detected. Thalia approached him slowly, each step deliberate, graceful. Her long silver braids swayed behind her as she extended both hands, palms glowing faintly green. "The ritual of energy is not a weapon," she said softly. "It was meant for unity, a joining of strength and spirit. You'll need to trust me completely, Commander." He gave a half smile beneath the visor. "I already do." She stopped within arm's reach. "Then remove the helmet." He hesitated. "The system will adjust. The armor responds to intention." With a breath, John willed it open. The plates around his head retracted with fluid precision, folding back into the collar. Cool temple air hit his face, sharp and metallic with ozone. Thalia studied him for a moment, as though seeing beyond the soldier into something older. "Human eyes," she murmured, "so fragile yet steady." Compliment, observation. But the hint of a smile tugged at her lips. She raised her hands and pressed her palms lightly against the glowing nodes at his chest and forearms. The contact sent a surge of warmth through him, like static but alive, intimate. The runes on his armor brightened, responding instantly to her touch. "Focus on the rhythm of your heart," she whispered. "Let the armor listen to it." He obeyed. A hum resonated through the floor, deep, harmonic, ancient. The light beneath them intensified, spreading outward in waves. The chamber darkened except for the circle surrounding them. Thalia began to chant softly in Alarian, a language that sounded like song filled with tones that seemed to vibrate directly inside his bones. Then the pain hit. Not physical, not exactly, but a pressure that gripped his soul. The armor flared violently, absorbing energy from Thalia's hands, feeding it into his nervous system. His vision blurred. Sparks danced behind his eyelids. "Thalia, stay with me," she commanded, her voice cutting through the haze. "You must balance the intake." He gritted his teeth, forcing his mind to stabilize. The armor screamed in his skull, power levels rising beyond threshold. But beneath the chaos, he could feel her. The rhythm of her heartbeat syncing with his. The warmth of her life essence mingling with his blood. It wasn't just energy transfer, it was fusion. Thalia's breathing quickened the glow of her skin, deepening to emerald fire. Symbols of light appeared along her arms and collarbone, ancient sigils of the royal line shimmering through her skin. Her hair flowed as if caught in a current that wasn't there. "You're drawing too much," she gasped. "I'm not doing anything." "Yes, you are. The armor it's choosing the link." The air vibrated with a sound like thunder. The floor beneath them split with radiant cracks. Energy arced upward, coiling around them like serpents of light. "Break it," she cried. He couldn't. The armor had locked into place. The neural link was absolute. Their minds collided, and suddenly John was no longer in the temple. He saw stars being born, suns collapsing, armies of winged warriors forging the armor under the gaze of beings of light. He saw Alaris when it was still a cradle world, the heart pulsing at its core. And beyond it, he saw Earth. Primitive humans staring at the same sky, their DNA already singing with fragments of Valerian legacy. He gasped as the visions burned through him. Thalia, I see them. Your ancestors, they went to my world. They seeded. I know, she whispered, voice overlapping his in the shared space of their minds. The armor showing us the truth. We were one people once. The realization hit them both like a nova. The prophecy wasn't about salvation from the outside, it was reunion. A lost branch of one species finding the other. The energy surged again, brighter now. The runes on John's chest merged into a single glowing sigil, the mark of the Guardian. Thalia's hands trembled as she tried to control the flow. John, listen to me. You have to want balance. The armor amplifies emotion. If you lose control, then we both burn, he finished. Yes. Her face was close now, eyes wide with determination and something deeper. Then focus on something pure, something real. He locked his gaze on hers. You. The word hit like gravity. The energy around them shifted, wild fury turning into harmony. The chaotic pulse synchronized, stabilizing into a steady rhythm that matched the beating of their hearts. Light erupted upward, flooding the chamber in blue and gold. The ceiling vanished into radiance. Thalia gasped, overwhelmed by the resonance. The ritual's chant dissolved into breathless sound. She leaned forward instinctively, forehead against his chest plate, her hands still pressed to the nodes that pulsed beneath her palms. He could feel everything, her warmth, her heartbeat, her strength. Their bond solidified, not metaphorical but physical. The armor's neural web extended from him to her, wrapping both in shimmering tendrils of light. The system registered it, dual link established. Compatible genetic resonance confirmed. The storm of power slowed. Silence returned vast, sacred. John opened his eyes. The armor no longer glowed with harsh blue, but a gentler azure mixed with gold. The once cold metal now felt alive, pulsing softly like skin. Thalia stumbled, catching herself against him. It's done, she whispered, voice faint. The armor. It recognized both of us. He caught her before she fell, one arm around her waist. You okay? She looked up at him, pupils dilated, lips parted. I've never felt anything like that. Me neither, he admitted, his own voice rough. Guess we overachieved. A faint smile touched her mouth. The ancient text said the ritual bound warrior and royal consort, one to fight, one to sustain. A bond beyond death itself. He met her gaze, the air between them charged with more than just energy. So what does that make us? Her smile deep and tired but genuine. Something the universe hasn't seen in 1,000 years. They stood like that for a moment, in the center of a temple, older than memory, surrounded by light that still shimmered with traces of their union. The hum of power was softer now, almost gentle, like a heartbeat echoing from the planet's core. The armor whispered to John, not in words but emotion, purpose, direction. They're coming, he said, straightening. The Voidborn, I can feel them through the armor. Thalia regained her balance, her expression hardening once more. Then the ritual worked. You're linked to the heart. You can sense them like our ancestors once did. John flexed his gauntlet. Energy rippled across his arm, forming a faint field of light. Feels like I could fight an army. Thalia nodded. You'll have to. But remember, every time you use that power, it draws from both of us now. He met her gaze. Then we fight together. Always, she said softly. They ascended the steps from the temple chamber. Behind them, the altar dimmed, the runes settling into silence, once more their purpose fulfilled. As they reached the surface passage, the palace trembled under bombardment. Through the shattered windows, they could see the capital aflame. The Voidborn swarmed like a living storm, devouring the skyline. John's armor flared brighter, the Guardian's sigil glowing through the smoke. Then let's see what this bond can really do. And together, the soldier of Earth and the princess of Valaris, they walked into the burning light, no longer two separate beings, but one resonance forged in fire. The night sky over Alaris was no longer a sky, it was a wound. Tendrils of darkness stretched from orbit to atmosphere, coiling like titanic serpents as the Voidborn fleet poured energy into the world below. The capital's towers burned in eerie silence, their spires snapping like glass under the weight of the invading storm. And in the center of the chaos, on the palace's highest terrace, two figures emerged from the haze, one wrapped in armor of light, the other crowned by fire. John Morton stood at the front lines, the guardian armor now radiant with twin hues, the deep blue of human will, fused with the golden warmth of Valerian essence. Beside him, Princess Thalia carried her crystalline blade, the runes on her skin still glowing faintly from their union. The air around them rippled with synchronized energy. They were no longer two beings, but one force split across two forms. Below the terrace, the palace gates buckled under the weight of the Voidborn horde. Thousands of black silhouettes swarmed forward, shadow creatures with mouths that screamed without sound, eyes like dying stars. The first line of Valerian soldiers trembled, their formation faltering. "Hold the line!" Thalia's voice rang out, amplified by her suit's comlink. "You are the flame of Alaris burn bright." Her words struck like thunder. The soldiers straightened energy shields, locking into place. The palace banners rippled defiantly against the dark wind. John's visor scanned the battlefield data, flooding in enemy density, gravitational anomalies, energy signatures converging around a single central point beneath the capital. His pulse quickened. The heart. "They're going for the core," he said. "That's what they want, the heart of Alaris. It's under the city." Thalia turned sharply toward him. "Then we can't just defend, we have to reach it first." Through that, he gestured toward the endless swarm. Her smile was fierce. "We have an advantage they don't faith." John chuckled, flexing his gauntlets. "And one hell of a power source." He lifted his arm, and the armor responded instantly. Blue-gold energy rippled outward in a wide arc, forming a shimmering barrier across the entire terrace. The front wave of Voidborn collided with it and disintegrated in a burst of light. The soldiers behind them erupted in cheers. The Guardian had arrived. Thalia leapt into the fray, her blade singing through the air. Every swing carved light trails through the darkness, each strike amplified by the resonance between her and John. She wasn't just fighting beside him, she was inside the flow of his power, her will feeding her energy, fueling every pulse of the armor. For the first time since the invasion began, the tide turned. "Keep pushing out," John shouted, driving forward. The armor's thrusters flared, propelling him into the horde like a meteor of light. The creatures burst apart around him, their black ichor vaporized by the sheer radiance of his presence. He could feel them now, every enemy's movement, every void pulse through the armor's sensory net. The link to Thalia amplified it. Their shared perception stretched miles beyond sight. "You're overextending," her voice echoed in his mind. "You'll burn yourself out." "I can handle it," he shot back, firing an energy blast that tore through a dozen more void spawn. "You're drawing from both of us, remember?" That stopped him. Through the neural bond, he could sense her heartbeat, fast and irregular. Every surge of power he unleashed drained her too. He forced himself to breathe. Balance. The word echoed in his head, the lesson from the ritual. The armor's power wasn't about domination, it was about harmony. He closed his eyes briefly, grounding himself, feeling her pulse, her breath, her warmth. Then he opened them again. The energy around him stabilized, calmer, now focused. The blast grew cleaner, more efficient. He wasn't fighting for her, he was fighting with her. Together, they advanced through the palace courtyard, cutting a path of light through shadow. Explosions rippled behind them as Alarian artillery joined in. Hover drones unleashed arcs of plasma, creating brief clearings that the Guardian and the Princess filled with fury and flame. In the sky above the Void Lord's flagship, a colossal sphere of darkness opened like a blooming wound, releasing more tendrils of void energy that lashed down toward the city. Every strike made the ground quake. "We're running out of time," Thalia said, breathing hard. "If they breach the heart chamber, it's over." "Then we take the direct route," John said. Through the undercity, through the void itself. Before she could protest, he activated the armor's thrusters and launched them both skyward. She cried out as his arm wrapped around her waist, but her reflexes quickly adapted, synchronizing with his flight pattern. They soared above the palace like a twin comet, golden and blue trails slicing through the smoke. From up here, the scale of the destruction was staggering, whole blocks consumed by darkness, the horizon cracking under bombardment. Thalia pointed downward. "There, the Grand Plaza. The heart chamber lies beneath it." John adjusted course, cutting through the storm of void tendrils. Shadow beasts lunged at them midair, but the armor's energy field deflected them effortlessly. As they descended, he extended his arm, the gauntlet glowing brighter than ever. and fired a concentrated pulse downward. The impact cleared the square in a flash of light, revealing the ancient sigil carved into the plaza floor, a massive circle inscribed with runes identical to those in the temple. They landed hard, debris scattering. Thalia rolled to her feet, scanning the ground. The entrance should be here. Before John could reply, the ground beneath them split open. From the chasm rose a massive figure, black fluid humanoid yet formless. Its voice rumbled like an earthquake. Guardian. The word wasn't spoken, it was projected directly into their minds, filled with malice. Thalia's grip tightened on her blade. Void Lord. John stepped forward, the armor flaring. You picked the wrong planet. The creature's body shifted, forming a grotesque approximation of a face. Your light is borrowed, your power stolen. The heart belongs to the void as it always has. Then I'm repossessing it, John said, raising his arm. The two forces collided. Light and shadow erupted across the plaza, shaking the city to its foundation. The impact sent shockwaves for miles. Energy crackled ground, vaporized the sky, split open. The Void Lord's tendrils wrapped around John, draining his strength, but Thalia darted between them, slicing through the dark coils with her blade. Each cut left trails of radiant gold that burned like sunlight. Now John, she shouted. He channeled everything, every ounce of will, every flicker of rage, every fragment of humanity into the armor. The runes blazed so bright they turned night into day. He unleashed a point-blank blast that tore through the Void Lord's chest, vaporizing half its body. But it didn't die. It screamed a sound that shattered windows across the city and began to reform. Damn it, he growled. It's absorbing ambient energy. Thalia looked around desperately. Then we cut off its source, the heart. John hesitated. You want to use the heart? She met his gaze. No, I want to awaken it. He nodded once. Then let's wake a god. They plunged through the cracked plaza floor into the depths below. The tunnel spiraled downward into blinding light, a subterranean cavern vast enough to hold a city. In the center floated the heart of Alaris, a crystalline sphere of pure energy, suspended above a chasm of molten light. Its radiance pulsed like the beat of a sleeping titan. Even through his armor, John could feel its warmth, a heartbeat that resonated with his own. The core of creation, Thalia whispered. Every life on this planet flows from it. The Void Lord's voice boomed from above. You cannot stop entropy, child of dust. The heart was mine before your kind crawled from the sea. John stepped forward, his armor glowing brighter in response to the heart's pulse. You've forgotten something, monster. And what is that? We don't crawl anymore. He leapt into the air, energy thrusters roaring, colliding with the Void Lord in midair. The chamber exploded with light. They grappled, each strike detonating with enough force to shatter stone. Shadows clawed at his armor, trying to pierce through, but the neural link with Thalia held her voice, anchoring him. John, the heart is reacting to you. It's syncing with the armor. Then maybe it's time to finish this. He extended both arms toward the core. The armor's systems went into overdrive, channels of energy opening that had lain dormant for eons. The heart's surface rippled, light leaping to meet him. The bond completed. The guardian of Alaris was reborn. Every rune on his armor ignited. The floor cracked. The Void Lord recoiled, its body tearing apart under the wave of energy. John's voice boomed through the chamber, echoing with something greater than human, something divine. Humanity doesn't steal power, he said. We earn it. The blast that followed split the darkness in two. The Void Lord disintegrated into light and vanished. When the echo faded, the chamber fell silent. The heart pulsed gently, stable again. John landed on one knee, smoke rising from his armor. Thalia rushed to him, falling beside him. John! He looked up, his visor retracting. A faint, tired smile crossed his face. Told you, balance. She laughed, tears glinting in her eyes. You insane, beautiful human. Above them, the heart pulsed one last time and the city's fires began to die. The Voidborn across the planet evaporated like mist in sunlight. The war for the heart was over. But the legend of the Guardian had just begun. The heart's light dimmed to a slow, steady pulse, bathing the cavern in ghostly blue. Dust and fragments of shattered crystal floated in the air like drifting embers. For a moment, it felt like peace, fragile, impossible peace. Then the temperature dropped. John froze mid-breath. The air grew heavy again, not from heat this time, but from presence. The darkness returned, not from the shattered body above, but from everywhere at once. A cold laugh echoed through the chamber, low and resonant, vibrating inside their skulls rather than their ears. Did you think a vessel could kill a voice guardian? The shadows pulled together into a rising spire of black smoke and violet light. It stretched upward until it brushed the cavern ceiling, forming a towering silhouette, humanoid yet infinite. Eyes like twin singularities blinked open. Thalia's blade shimmered in her trembling hand. Impossible, we destroyed its form. Forms are fleeting, the Void Lord said, voice reverberating like collapsing stars. I am the hunger between creation and silence. I am the pause before every heartbeat. Did you think light could exist without me to define it? John took a step forward, armor flaring faintly. You're not balance. You're oblivion pretending to have meaning. Meaning is irrelevant. All things fade, even you, child of borrowed light. The chamber trembled as the Void Lord's shadow spread across the walls, swallowing the runes. The heart's glow flickered as if suffocating under the weight of that cosmic pressure. Thalia staggered back, clutching her temples. It's inside my mind. John moved instinctively, stepping between her and the entity. Stay out of her head, he growled. The Void Lord laughed again, the sound of collapsing stars. You protect her. You do not even know what she is. John's visor flared, scanning the energy signature around Thalia. For the briefest instant, something flickered, a resonance identical to the heart itself buried deep within her genetic pattern. A realization clicked. You're saying she's the last vessel, the Void Lord hissed. The royal line was never political guardian. It was containment, a living key to the heart encoded in blood and song. When her ancestors stole creation, they sealed it within their line, and I have waited eons for it to bloom again. Thalia's eyes widened. That's why the armor responded to me, why the heart resonates with my voice, and why I cannot destroy you outright, the Void Lord finished. You are the lock. Its gaze shifted to John as the hand that opens it. John felt his pulse race, the armor heating under his skin. You want me to use the heart to unlock you? I offer more than that, the Void Lord said, lowering its tone until it was almost intimate. You've tasted power, human. You've felt what it means to command the energy that shapes galaxies. Do you truly wish to give that up? Serve a dying world? Or will you ascend with her at your side and rule creation itself? For a moment, silence. Then faintly the armor whispered in John's mind, not words but emotion. Temptation. The energy it drew from the heart resonated with what the void promised. Infinite potential, limitless control, the voice of his own ambition. Thalia reached for his arm. John, don't listen. He turned towards her, his face half lit by the armor's blue glow. If he's right, maybe we could rebuild more than just Alaris. Maybe everything. Worlds, civilizations. By becoming what she asked quietly. The same thing we just destroyed. The Void Lord's shadow coiled tighter, sensing the fracture between them. She fears your greatness, Guardian. She fears a world where she is no longer needed. She would chain you to mortality because she cannot ascend with you. John's hands clenched into fists, the neural feed spiked. Images flashed through his mind. Earth burning, the Federation collapsing, billions dying, all because humanity lacked the power to defend itself. If he could harness the heart, he could end that. He could fix everything. Thalia stepped closer, her voice trembling but steady. You told me once that orders end where conscience begins. Remember that? Her words hit harder than any weapon. John's mind spun, torn between vision and truth. The armor pulsed faster, feeding on his conflict. Its energy readings climbed into the red. The Void Lord's laughter deepened. You feel it, don't you? The heart sings to your kind because your blood remembers me. We were one once, creator and creation. You could be again. I can give you dominion over stars. Just reach for it. The heart responded, glowing brighter, the chamber trembling. John could feel the link tugging him forward. The barrier between thought and power began to thin. He saw visions himself standing on the bridge of a star fleet, thousands bowing. A galaxy unified, perfected. No war, no suffering. He took one step toward the heart. John, Thalia whispered, tears streaking her face. If you open yourself to that thing, there will be no coming back. He turned to her, eyes blazing with conflict. And if I don't, my people die. Yours rebuild on ashes. Maybe this is what we were meant for. No, she shook her head fiercely. You weren't chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because you doubt, because you question power, because you refuse to become what you fight. The Void Lord roared, its voice shaking the ground. Weakness disguised as virtue. She blinds you with sentiment. Guardian, embrace what you were born for, the end of the cycle. John's gauntlet twitched. The armor system screamed for release energy levels critical, seeking purpose. He could feel the darkness trying to merge with his neural network. It wasn't invasion anymore. It was invitation. And then he saw her. Not Talia the princess, not the key to the heart, but the woman who had fought beside him, bled beside him, risked her world and body to save him. The woman who saw a human soldier and called him worthy when no one else did. He exhaled slowly. You talk too much, he muttered. The Void Lord paused. What? John slammed his armored hand into the ground, releasing a surge of pure light through the cavern floor. The energy radiated outward, forming a dome around him and Thalia. The darkness recoiled, hissing. He turned to her, voice steady now. If I'm going to rewrite the universe, I'm starting with this rule: no gods. Not even me. Thalia smiled through her tears. Now that's the human I chose to trust. The Void Lord screamed, a sound of fury and disbelief that cracked the very rock. You cannot resist forever, Guardian. The heart answers to entropy. It always will. Then I'll teach it rebellion, John said. It runs in the family. He reached for Thalia's hand. You ready? Always. Together they extended their joined hands toward the heart. The armor systems responded to their dual signal. The heart flared brighter than a sun. Energy spiraled upward, forming a cyclone of light that enveloped them both. The Void Lord's shadow surged against it, trying to engulf them, but the barrier held. Focus on what connects us, Thalia shouted over the roar. Not fear, not power us. John did. Every memory, their first meeting, her laughter in the relic chamber, her bravery in battle, her hand on his chest in the temple, it all became fuel. The bond between them wasn't just emotion, it was the antithesis of the void: life, connection, hope. The heart responded. The light around them shifted, no longer blue, but white gold. The color of creation, reborn. The Void Lord howled as his body began to unravel. No, you cannot erase me. I am the void. I am every silence that will ever come. John stepped forward, his voice carrying like thunder. Then you'll have to wait your turn. We're not done making noise. With one final surge, he and Thalia released the heart's full power. The explosion of light consumed everything. There was no sound, no heat, only illumination beyond comprehension. Darkness folded inward, collapsing on itself, sucked back into the void between realities. The heart pulsed one last time, then dimmed, peaceful again. When the radiance faded, John was kneeling, smoke rising from his armor. The once blue suit was now etched with streaks of gold, as if the heart had branded him with divine fire. His visor flickered out, revealing tired human eyes. Thalia knelt beside him, trembling but alive. You did it, she whispered. You banished it. He managed a weak grin. We did it. Pretty sure that's the definition of cosmic teamwork. Above them, the heart hovered silently, smaller now, a fragment missing from its core. That fragment pulsed faintly at the center of John's chest, fused into the armor's breastplate. Thalia touched it reverently. It's inside you. Guess it needed a roommate. She laughed, soft, relieved, beautiful. And for the first time since the war began, the cavern didn't echo with fear, but with life. The heart glowed once more, sending a final pulse of energy across the planet. Outside, the skies cleared. The Voidborn dissolved like mist. Across Alaris, survivors looked up to see the dawn breaking, their world reborn. John and Thalia stood side by side, staring at the heart as its glow faded into the stone. What now? She asked quietly. He looked down at his hands, still trembling, still human. Now we rebuild. And maybe, just maybe, we make sure no one ever needs a guardian again. Thalia took his hand. That may take 1,000 years. He smiled. Then we better get started. 3 months after the battle, the skies of Alaris were clear again. The twin suns rose over a city reborn, Valoria. The capital, once reduced to ruin, now glimmered with scaffolds and hope. Hover cranes moved silently over new towers. Soldiers became builders. The smoke of war had given way to the hum of reconstruction. From the highest terrace of the royal palace, John Morton watched the sunrise in quiet disbelief. He'd seen 100 dawns on 100 worlds, but none like this. This one wasn't just light over horizon, it was proof that darkness could bleed, that death could lose. The guardian armor shimmered faintly around him, not as a weapon now, but as an aura alive, responsive, peaceful. He could summon or dismiss it at will. The fragment of the heart embedded in his chest pulsed gently, keeping rhythm with his heartbeat. Sometimes when the wind was still, he could feel Alaris itself breathing through him, the planet's energy running through his veins like sunlight turned to blood. "You look less like a soldier every day," a familiar voice said behind him. He turned, already smiling. Thalia stepped onto the terrace sunlight, reflecting off her ceremonial robes. The gold filigree traced the lines of her collarbones, framing the faint, luminescent sigils that still marked her skin. Her silver-white hair was braided into a crown, beads glinting like captured stars. She looked every inch a queen, and yet to him, she was still the woman from the relic chamber, daring him to touch a dusty suit of armor as a joke. "Careful," John said, smirking. "You start saying things like that, and I'll think you actually like having me around." "I tolerate you," she said, her eyes twinkling. "Barely." He laughed, a sound that echoed across the terrace light in unrestrained. That sound had become familiar to the palace staff, the laugh of the guardian, the human who saved a world. It reminded them that their queen's consort wasn't divine but disarmingly human. "How's the council?" he asked, turning back to the view. Predictably nervous, Thalia said, joining him at the railing. "They don't quite know what to do with a living legend living in the palace. Half of them think you're a god. The other half think you're an omen. And you," she smiled softly, "I think you're trouble." He pretended to consider that. "I can live with that title." They stood in companionable silence for a while, the wind carrying the scent of new steel and distant flowers from the regrown gardens. Below, children chased each other through the rebuilt plaza, laughing where shadows once consumed the ground. It was the sound of a planet healing. Thalia leaned against the railing, her tone thoughtful. "The Federation envoy leaves today. They're eager to reestablish trade. Their proposal was generous." "Generous usually means terrified will say no," John said. "Let me guess, exclusive mining rights, defense treaties, and a seat on their council in exchange for pretending this planet never fought without their help." "Something like that," she admitted. "They're trying to turn victory into politics." He gave a low whistle. "Typical. A few months ago, they were ready to write you off as lost. Now they want to brand your survival as a Federation miracle." Thalia glanced sideways at him. "You sound bitter." He chuckled. "I'm human. We invented bitterness." Then his voice softened. "But we also invented forgiveness. Maybe they'll earn that too one day." She studied him, the faint smile, the exhaustion behind it, the light in his eyes that hadn't dimmed despite everything. "You could go back, to your people. The Federation would take you back in an instant." He shook his head slowly. "And do what? Sit in a council room while they argue over who owns the stars? No thanks. I've seen what power does when no one questions it." He turned toward her, his voice quiet but steady. "Besides, my world's already here." For once, Thalia didn't tease. She simply reached out and took his hand, fingers intertwining with his. The gesture was small, human, impossibly intimate. The contact triggered a faint pulse of energy between them, the bond from the ritual still alive, humming softly like a second heartbeat. She smiled faintly. "You realize you're technically married to my planet now. The Guardian's link ties you to its core." He grinned. "Guess that makes me royalty by extension." Her eyes sparkled. "Consort technically. Don't get ahead of yourself." He leaned closer. "Pretty sure I already am." For a moment, they just laughed freely like two people who'd outrun destiny itself. But beneath the humor, something unspoken pulsed between them. Not just attraction, but connection older than both their species. He had felt it in the temple and battle, in the silence afterward. Their bond wasn't built on ritual or prophecy. It was born of choice, the rarest power in the universe. That evening, the farewell ceremony filled the palace's grand hall. Delegates from the Federation, representatives from the rebuilt colonies, and hundreds of civilians gathered to honor the Guardian. The banners of Alaris hung beside the star and eagle insignia of Earth. When John entered, the crowd fell silent, not from fear but reverence. He hated it a little. He wasn't a god. He'd been a soldier, a messenger, a fool who touched something he didn't understand and somehow lived long enough to learn from it. As he passed, children reached out to touch his hand as if some of that light might pass to them. Thalia walked beside him, regal but warm, acknowledging each bow with a nod. At the center of the hall, a massive mural depicted the battle. The guardian of Alaris bathed in light, holding back the void, while the heart shone behind him. He didn't remember the moment being that glorious, but maybe legends needed exaggeration. When the music faded, Thalia stepped forward to address the crowd. Her voice, amplified by the palace acoustics, carried both strength and grace. 3 months ago, she began, we stood on the edge of extinction, and we were saved not by gods, not by empires, but by will, by courage, by connection. Her gaze shifted to John. One man reminded us that the light we seek isn't given. It's chosen. It's built through trust, sacrifice, and love. The hall erupted in applause, thunderous, heartfelt, endless. John, a soldier who had faced death without blinking, felt his throat tighten. He looked at her, the queen who had once mocked his formality, now looking at him as though he were the center of her world. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. Careful, Your Majesty. You'll make people think you like me. She didn't laugh this time. Instead, she reached up, her fingers brushing his cheek. I don't like you, she whispered. I love you, John Morton, and if the stars ever doubt it, they can come ask the heart itself. He smiled, slow, sincere, unstoppable. I'll hold you to that. Then he kissed her. And for a brief, infinite moment, the galaxy itself seemed to pause, the stars over Alaris, shining a little brighter, as though bowing to the legend being written beneath them. Later that night, when the halls were empty and the torches dimmed, John stood once more on the balcony. He looked up at the stars, the same constellations he had once watched from Earth, now shining over a different world. Behind him, Thalia's voice drifted through the quiet. Can't sleep. Just thinking, he said softly, about how small we are, how big everything else is. She joined him, slipping her arm around his waist. And yet somehow the universe noticed. He smiled, resting his hand over hers. The armor's core pulsed faintly under his palm, echoing the beat of her heart. Do you think it's over? She asked. No, he said simply, but for now it's quiet, and that's enough. They stood together as dawn crept over the horizon, the guardian and the queen partners, in rebuilding not just a world but a future. Far above the stars shimmered no longer symbols of distance and fear, but bridges between hearts, between species, between everything that ever dared to reach for the light. Because once on a dying world, an alien girl let a human try on her ancestors' armor, and the universe has never been the same since.